Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Daily Kos The Brief. It's our weekly show about politics. I'm Marcos Molitzis. I'm here with Carrie Eleveld, and today we are going to be talking about the Republican Party brand as the start, basically, as they start talking about the things they think they should be talking about in the House. We're going to see what exactly that is and how that really impacts the 2024 election cycle. And Carrie and I think we don't need to go out on a limb to say that our theory is that they're screwing it up already. So we're going to talk about
shocker.
And we're partisan, of course, but we're also reality based. And I can say that objectively they are screwing this thing up. And Carrie's been writing about it at Daily Kos. She's got numbers she's going to throw at us, polling. I mean, it's not just us. It's it's quite the shit show. We talked a little bit about it last week, but it's going to be entertaining. Carrie,
Yes.
The House is going to be entertaining, and they can't help themselves. The Republicans Party cannot help themselves. But before we do that, I wanna quickly touch on the Martin Luther King holiday that was this week, and there is this sort of weird effort in white America to sort of whitewash what Martin Luther King was all about, and really strip out the meaning of MLK's words and actions. And it's become a sort of a day of service. And Martin Luther King wasn't, obviously service was a part of his message, but really that's not the core of Martin Luther King was all about. And sort of really cutting to the core of that is poor Bangor Daily News. I mean, they stepped on it this week, but they've been stepping on it since 2009. They've been rerunning every MLK day this editorial where they basically ran a edited version of MLK's "I Have a Dream" speech. And the tweet this year, from the Bangor Daily News, said editorial : as we mark the 94th birthday of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., we should take a step away from our divisive politics and recall his defining speech. Then they basically, I mean, it's a newspaper, you have to edit down. I mean, that's understandable, but they just seem to edit down every part of it that had any real sort of heft or meaning. And Carrie, if you would indulge me, I'm gonna quote part of the speech that they left out, because I think it's one of the most kind of one of the most critical parts of that speech. And so this is MLK, quote: when the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as our citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring the sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. So that was edited out amongst, calls on police brutality, on poverty. So basically anything that was, quote, divisive was edited out. And then they talked about, like, we must remember what he was all about in spite of all this divisiveness. Martin Luther King was not loved in his time. He was the very definition of divisive. The historian Kevin Cruz on Twitter ran a poll from, who was this poll? But this is from the March on Washington. Gallup, August 1963. Only 23% of Americans had a favorable opinion of Martin Luther King's rally on Washington. And in fact, the Bangor Daily News, the same newspaper that now wants us to cast aside the divisiveness and really believe, really look at what MLK stood for, their own editorial during the March on Washington chastised MLK for being divisive. So I'm not sure there's a lot of discussion there, Carrie.
We were discussing this just ahead of the show, and obviously they got in the routine of doing this at one point. They decided in 2009 somehow that editing it down in this way was smart, and they run a lot of editorials. Apparently, they actually ran an apology after this came to light. So what, a couple days ago or something? No, yes, today they ran an apology.
Yesterday, or I mean, it was
Yeah.
Monday they ran the editorial, so it would have been
Yeah, right.
Tuesday.
So they
Okay.
must have run the apology today. So, and in there they said that they'd been doing it this way since 2009. So someone at some point in 2009, they edited down the speech. They run it with a bunch of editorials every year on MLK Day to sort of honor him. But, they got in the routine of doing this and just sort of never questioned it until they were in the spotlight. And they said, it was one thing to have Kevin Cruz, bring it to light and have it kind of blow up, and then it gets a hit on MSNBC. Joy Reid talks about it. But then they said they heard from, like, they said that was one thing, but then we heard from, a Portland, like a congressperson and a local city council person and something like that. And they realized this is really bad. It's like, I don't know. I mean, they felt like they had been a victim of initially of the outrage machine. And I get that, but, like, I don't know how much, soul searching it takes to realize when you've cut out the promissory note, that maybe you've gone awry. Like, I'm not a student of, I've read some MLK speeches. I appreciate him. I've read things about him, but I'm not a student necessarily of, like, all his speeches. But the promissory note is like, this is like one of the pivotal moments of that speech. And I just don't know how they could have gotten to a place where they were like, yeah, we'll just toss that part out. The idea that America, gave a promissory note and it had insufficient funds for Black Americans. I mean, that is like, it's like the crux of the speech. Anyway,
I don't know. Maybe it was divisive, and we must look beyond the divisiveness of the time. But it does sort of speak to the importance of challenging conventional wisdom and fighting for what's right, and having that deep moral conviction to know that the fight is worth having when 3/4 of Americans did not approve of your actions. And I just had to stop. We're going to be talking about unpopular Republicans in the House, and they think they're that. They think
come
they're
on.
moral crusaders.
Do you really think that they think they're that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, the dumb ones, the really dumb ones. Not Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy is just a cynical a-hole, maybe. But
Kevin McCarthy knows he's just he knows he's a bottom feeder. I'm convinced of it. But that, he's one of those people. We all know some of these people.
But wait, Carrie, let's make a clean transition. So
okay,
I didn't mean to do
no,
that.
you're right. You're right. Oh my God, you got me off on Kevin McCarthy. I was like, let's run with it. All right, go ahead. So, sorry. Let's do MLK as justice. Yeah. Okay.
It was people sort of piled on the Banker Daily News, and they deserved it. And but it really sort of speaks towards this broader trend towards sanitizing MLK. It's why can't we all come together like MLK wanted us? Because he had a dream that we were all singing Kumbaya together, and why can't we go to that? And that's not what MLK was. And I just think it's sort of important as a lesson to be learned in this week that's not what MLK was about. That he was about fighting for what he believed was true, and that's why he's one of the great figures in world history. And we are so blessed as a country to have had him for the time that we were blessed to have him. So let's not pretend that he was all about everybody coming together. He was divisive. He was because, as we know, unfortunately, divisiveness really isn't the same definition that you think. Divisiveness isn't things that come between people. Divisiveness is people not wanting to hear sometimes what the truth is, and they'd rather live in ignorance, stick their head in the sand, pretend that everything's okay. That's divisiveness. There's two kinds, and there's a distinction there between what MLK did, and we can transition to talking about the Republican House, because that's a different kind of divisiveness. That's not about exposing the truth. That's not about having Americans confront their moral failings and that that uncashed check, the insufficient funds check. That's not about that. The kind of divisiveness we see in the U.S. House today is about pitting people against each other. It's about demagoguing. It's about winning votes by hating on other people. So, Carrie, the Republican Party ran on inflation and lower gas prices. So, what's going on in the House?
Well, now that they've fixed that, they're moving on. They've moved on to other things. I mean, let's start here just to acknowledge before, they've had they've had 2 weeks. They haven't done much. They're home now, resting on their laurels, I guess. I don't know. But they've got a week off, week and a half off, something like that. So
whew, thank God. That was
yeah, thank God. I mean, frankly, I feel better that with them out of
right.
Washington. I feel relaxed. I feel good. So, but already, I was thinking. I read a Paul Krugman piece this morning in the New York Times. He's a New York Times sort of progressive economist, et cetera, and very smart. And what he was pointing out was, already like the economy is so much better than it was last November. Of course, this has zero to do with anything Republicans have done. It's all what Democrats did and what the Biden administration has done. Gas prices are coming down. Prices overall are coming down. Inflation is coming down. The job market is still strong. The unemployment rate is low. I can't remember exactly how many people, but over 200,000 people came off the sidelines to enter the job market last month. And the unemployment rate still hit a historic low of 3-point-something% last week. I mean, I'm just working off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a 50-year low.
50-year low, right? So that means that everybody who came off the sidelines to try to get a job, got absorbed into the job market. That's how strong the job market still is. So, the consumer confidence is getting better by several measures. I mean, you can look at civics polling and consumer confidence. They're rating the economy better. The University of Michigan Consumer Confidence Index survey is up, I think 8% since last month. So, people are starting to have a better perception of the economy. And Paul Krugman said, it's quite possible that if the election had been held now instead of 3 months ago, the Democrats might have held the House. I mean, that's how much better the perceptions of the economy are. And House Republicans haven't done anything. So I just want to be clear that Democrats need to take credit for this. It's Democrats who passed the Inflation Reduction Act. It's Democrats who helped Americans through a tough time. It's Democrats who lowered the price of certain medical things like insulin, drug costs, et cetera. It's Democrats who helped do things, as particularly the White House, helped do things to lower gas prices. It is Democrats who over and over again, they bolstered businesses. They got this historic investment in manufacturing, in microchip manufacturing. So, all of these things are things that Democrats did before Republicans came in. And if there's one overriding thing that was true last year, that has been true for decades, is despite, Trump basically during the COVID running the country into the ground at epic loss of jobs, despite George W. Bush leaving the economy in a shambles to Barack Obama, consumers still seem to think that Republicans are better at the economy. And they have thought that for decades. And we could write in chapter and verse about why that's not true, but it's something that they think. And, Simon Rosenberg was sort of on this train of we need to we need to make sure that we chip away at this idea that somehow Republicans are better for the economy. It's clear now, once again, that Democrats have been better for this economy. We've got a strong jobs market, low unemployment, consumer prices coming down, confidence going up, and Democrats need to start now taking credit for that. We don't know where it will be in a year, but we just need to start building the case for all the things that they did to try to make this come true. And it can't be a wait and see. Let's wait and see where the economy is, because Republicans will take credit for it.
No, absolutely. There's been sort of an assumption, given the high inflation rate and the aggressive actions of the Fed in raising interest rates, and I think home mortgages are around the 6% mark, which historically, compared to the teens of the 70s, isn't crazy high, but it's still, we were used to 2 to 3%. So it's been a bit of a shock. There was this sort of assumption that we would have a recession, that was almost a done deal. Yet every month we look at the job reports, and the job reports still show strong job growth and retention, and inflation's coming down. And for the first time now, within the last couple of weeks, I'm seeing economists start really seriously talking about the idea of a excuse me, the idea of a soft landing, quote unquote. So you get the inflation down to where they want to, which is 2 to 3% annual, and yet job growth remains strong. We don't fall into the recession. If Democrats manage to do that, it would be an accomplishment of probably of historic proportions economically. And so for sure, you already want to talk about the accomplishments so far, where we are, how we got here, and prepare the way for that argument next year. Because we just had the midterm election. You think, oh, we get some breathing room? Not really. The 2024 elections has already started. You're already seeing Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis sniping at each other. The sort of defining parameters of this debate are starting to come out, right? And so it was in the midterm election. It was supposedly the Republicans talked about crime, inflation, price of gas. That was their thing. They lost because the Democratic counter argument ended up being stronger, which was Donald Trump and the Republican Party has lost its marbles, and the Republican Party is coming after our rights, including not just abortion, but in a decision that really made clear that the Supreme Court may target things like contraception, marriage equality, and other rights that we hold and cherish deeply. Sodomy, anti-sodomy laws, this sort of thing that Clarence Thomas and his friends would love to
what
bring
you
back.
do in your bedroom is your business. I mean, that's the type of thing they're going after. What you do in your bedroom is your business, not in the Republican Party.
So what was amazing about that debate is that they had to make up their issues, right? I mean, inflation wasn't made up, but it was clear that it was not because of Democrats or Joe Biden. The entire world, the global economy, was inflationary after the shutdowns, 2 to 3 years of shutdowns because of COVID. Everybody saved money. They sat at home. They did nothing. Boom, everything opens up. People are spending. And that's what fueled global inflation. Furthermore, crime, the whole crime narrative was completely invented. Crime was nowhere, wasn't out of the ordinary. It was definitely not at any kind of historic heights. It was completely a Fox News media creation. And what was the other issue? Gas prices. Same. It was gas companies, like notching record revenues because they were gouging. They were using inflation as an excuse to make a lot of money. And I actually think they also wanted to damage Democrats. I mean, because those oil executives want Republicans in charge. That's who they're funding. So they had a completely made up narrative. Ours was real. Donald Trump and abortion. So what do they lead off? What do they lead with once they take narrow control of the House? Anti-abortion legislation. And what was the other thing? Oh, and they're talking about investigating Hunter Biden's penis. And what else are they talking about? I mean,
Well, they spent a week on a leadership fight too. It was like on day one we're gonna spend 5 days doing a leadership fight.
nothing about gas prices, nothing about inflation, nothing about crime. They are doing the things we said they would do because our narrative was true. And they can't even pretend to do the things they were talking about. It's actually quite stark. And this, I think, will have consequences moving forward.
Marcos, you'll be happy to know that there's already polling on this. Aren't you happy to know
Oh,
that?
Carrie,
Yeah.
tell us.
So they ran on lowering cost of groceries and gas prices, right? Republicans did. That was one of their big things. Well, guess what? Navigator Research, it's a progressive consortium of pollsters, laid out, I think, let's see, six different messages on it to voters on what they were most interested in having Congress address. And you would be interested to know that 58%, that was the biggest percentage, that was the number one issue, want Congress to focus on lowering costs like groceries and gas. Okay, well,
That
that's
was
what
the
they ran on,
Republican
right?
campaign. Okay.
Okay. So let's lead off with investigating Hunter Biden because that's what they've led off with. And guess out of the six what that was?
100%.
The last one, it was in terms of what voters wanted them to focus on, it got 14%.
14.
And
So not even their core 30%.
No, that's what they led with. They led with that. So, you go down the list. It's the top one was lowering costs of gas and groceries. Next one was 32% improving healthcare, 30% cracking down on illegal immigration and securing the southern border. Something like 26% dealing with the national debt, and then 24% protecting American security against aggressors like Russia and China, and then 14% investigating Hunter Biden's laptop, or as you like to say, his penis.
That's literally when people talk about Hunter Biden's laptop, they're talking
That's
about
right.
the campaign asking Twitter to remove its contents because really what it was all about was salacious pictures of Hunter Biden's penis. You think I'm exaggerating? I'm not exaggerating.
No.
This is not me being clever and funny. It is literally what was on that laptop, nothing else. So that's what they're talking about. They're trying to make it like Hillary Clinton's emails, where people are like, "But her emails," and then you ask, "What about them?" And they have no clue because there's nothing wrong with her emails. They're trying to create the Hunter Biden laptop as this catch-all. Ooh, there's stuff in there. Really, it was Hunter Biden dick pics, and nobody wants to see those. Literally, no one wants to see those except Republicans in the House, apparently.
Republicans do have kind of a weird obsession with what people are doing in the bedroom. I mean, truly
It's
weird
not
obsession.
a winning fight. So you have a caucus the Republican caucus, that I think understands most of this. I don't think this is shocking news to them. I think they can read polling and see, like, yeah, people want to talk about inflation and gas prices. Like, I think they get that. The problem they have, the result of this 5-day leadership battle, and how many votes? 15, 16?
I think it was 15 rounds.
Is that Kevin McCarthy basically gave control of the House to the Freedom Caucus, to the nihilist wing of the Republican Party that doesn't really care about inflation or gas prices. They represent districts that are so red that there's no concern about real world problems. Their constituents are the Fox News type, and they're happy to see Marjorie Taylor Greene ranting about Dr. Fauci and how now everybody knows that the vaccines were a scam and that they hurt people. I mean, this is stuff that they're saying now, and it doesn't track with what people want Congress to talk about. It doesn't track with reality for sure. And it makes the entire party look absolutely bonkers. Yet McCarthy, to be speaker, he surrendered his the chance to sort of brand his party as problem solvers in order to protect his own skin, to protect his own ass, and he gave power to these people. And so this is what the Republican Party stuck with. They gave control of Ways and Means to Freedom Caucus. They have They have all their worst people are on investigative committees. That's what's going to drive the narrative. And so much as a quote moderate Republicans may want to break away and work with Democrats to do things like make sure that there's no national default, that they'll
Right.
raise the debt limit. They may work on spending bills. In the end, people aren't going to see that. They're going to see the loudest Republican voices because they dominate. They dominate Fox News. They dominate the online world, and they're nihilists. And so you always talk about, I remember when Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, when they were elected, they sort of tried to style themselves after the Squad, right? Alexandra Ocasio,
Mhm.
Cortez,
Yep.
and
Yep.
the
Ayanna
progressive
Presley and
Ilya Oman.
yeah, right,
Um,
exactly.
but at least our squad, I mean, yeah, they voted against, the majority on some issues, um, but they pick their battles, and they keep their battles in the ideological, sort of in the debate going on in Congress, right? So they had the votes probably to stymie Nancy Pelosi had they wanted to undermine her reelection as Speaker of the House. But they didn't, right? They worked within that system, and that's what they're doing. They're working within the system. They're casting statement votes here and there when the opportunity's there, but they never really undermined the caucus. These nihilists, these Republican nihilists, this Freedom Caucus, they don't care. They don't care about
Yeah.
the party. They don't care about Kevin McCarthy. They don't care about Americans. They are so stuck in they need to burn everything down because of deep state that they are undermining their entire party. And this is we're gonna get 2 years of this.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean the absolute difference between what oh God, what they call the the crew, the
The
sorry,
squad?
the yeah, the squad. God, I kept on thinking the crew. The absolute difference between the squad and what the nihilists are doing is that the squad is actually interested in helping people, is actually interested in using the government as a tool to get things done for Americans, right? The nihilists are the GOP nihilists are merely interested in just shutting everything down, in just tearing things apart, in feeding the worst instincts of their, of the aggression and unhappiness and anger that their constituents feel. And they're, I mean, it's not even they're like hostage takers, but they actually don't want to bargain for anything. They
No.
just want to take the hostage. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like taking the hostage is good enough. So you can give them anything they want, and they're like, "Yeah, I just wanted to take the hostage."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I don't care. I'm not trying to like get more jobs in my area or help people with medical costs or help them with childcare or make their lives better. I just wanted to take the hostage because that's what it's about for me, and that's what fundraising is about for me. So that's it. That's what you've got. That's what's driving the Republican Party right now, and will be driving them for 2 years. And you just have to wonder, like we started off talking about how much better the economy is. Just to put a fine point on what you were saying about the recession, I was looking at polling of what people thought of the economy just before they took a vote last fall. And CNN had a poll in early November and found that 76% of Americans actually believed the economy was in recession. I mean, that's why Paul Krugman says, I mean, it wasn't right. And it's still not in recession, but there had been so much talk about there might be a recession. And, probably Republicans were saying there is a recession and all that. And 76, 3/4 of this country thought that the country was in a recession, and we weren't. We were not. So that's why Paul Krugman could say, well, gee, maybe if we held the election right now, Democrats might have actually kept the House. But in any case, we started out the podcast talking about how much better shape we're already in terms of the economy and things coming back. And then you've got what you're going to get is this Democrats who have been, and they just need to carry this message forward, highly effective. It seems that what they did when they held the reins in a trifecta, right, of the Senate, the House, and the White House, the policies that they enacted have actually helped the American people, have actually seem to appear to have steadied the economy. Things are getting better. We might have the soft landing, right? And then at the same time, you're going to have these House Republicans that are just, I don't even think we are prepared for how off the hook they're going to be, right? I don't think we're prepared for how crazy this is going to get. Remember when Trump won and we were all like, in 2016, and we were all like, God, I know it's going to be bad, but like, I don't know if I know how bad it's really going to be.
I mean, we
And
had no idea. I mean,
we
we
were
thought
right.
it's gonna be bad, and we were like at 20% of how bad it actually ended
Right,
up
20% of how bad it actually was. I
because we
mean, who
couldn't
was
fathom.
predicting? Who was predicting we were going to have literally that the president of the United States was going to lead an insurrection, a coup attempt on the U.S. seat of government and try to get lawmakers killed? I mean, that's what happened. And sit in the Oval Office and watch the whole thing unfold and not lift a damn finger. I mean, that's how bad it got. And I admit, as bad as I thought it was going to get, I had no idea that was coming. None.
No, no, no.
So I think we've got a similar thing that's going to
I
happen,
mean, we
and it's
also
not going to
didn't know that the world was
not
gonna
be
throw a
pleasant.
pandemic on top of everything to really
Yeah,
test Trump's
yeah,
ability to lead, and boy, did he fail that one.
yeah. So we're going to have these split screens of what the Republicans are doing and what Democrats did and plan to do. And I just think it's going to be like I was looking at this just off the top, but I was looking at Ron DeSantis today. He was doing some new crazy stunt where he was like giving a speech that it was in front of a flag that kind of looks like the Confederate flag. I mean, I guess it's the Florida state flag, but it looks just a little bit. He's standing in front of that. He's talking about. He actually says in a speech that the bivalent booster shot, people who got that are more likely to get infected. I just want to say there's no evidence of this, zero evidence. Okay. This is just a total lie that they're more likely to get infected than people who haven't gotten it. Okay. That's just not true. It's
Patently
not true at
absurd.
all.
Patently
No,
absurd.
it's completely absurd. And he's talking about something about the deep state and blah blah blah. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you are. I think I just wonder. I really have an instinct that it's possible that he is overplaying his hand. And but by the time we get done with a year and a half of House Republicans pulling this crazy, just dumbass nihilistic stuff, I just wonder if, voting majorities are going to have clearly had enough and not be real excited even about Trump light, which is what he's trying to do. And what happens if MAGA Republicans are kind of on an island by the time we get there? I mean, I remember when Scott Walker was going to be the second coming. Scott Walker in
Jeb Bush,
2016 he was right. Former governor of Wisconsin. He was going to like win it all.
yeah.
He was out of there, what, by July or something like that? I can't
Yeah,
remember. He dropped
I've
out.
real doubts about DeSantis's ability to
Yeah.
weather the national glare. He's
Yeah.
basking in Fox News right now. And this is another factor that actually this it reminds me that not only are you going to have the nihilist caucus in the House doing their thing, but you're going to have all the Republican presidential candidates cheering them on because they're all trying to appeal to that primary vote. They're all trying to go for that Trump vote. So it's actually going to create this sort of self-reinforcing circle of doom for them. So, Carrie, a year and a half ago, we were very early on from the very beginning of the cycle. We said that the 2022 election was going to revolve around abortion rights because we saw the Supreme Court decision coming, and that it was going to revolve around Trump because we couldn't have a referendum on the incumbent president if the old president didn't get off the stage, right? And that referendum on Trump was about democracy. It was about the rightward shift of the Republican Party and its descent into QAnon conspiracy theory madness. So that, and the theory played out, like it worked out. So, we can pat ourselves in the back and talk about how, how smart we are. Now we got to look ahead though. So here's what I'm guessing is that again the election's going to be a choice. Clearly, I mean, let me go out on a limb.
Yeah. No, Marcos, you're just way out there. Come on back.
It's going to be a choice, but it's still going to be the same choice. It's going to be Biden sort of boring centrism versus MAGA, right? Because it's going to be a MAGA candidate, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's DeSantis, they're going to be singing from that same choir book. And I don't know if there's a thing as MAGA light. I mean, DeSantis may try to make that argument in the general election. I don't even think he can. I think he's going to be so trapped into that vortex of deplorables that if he gets to the general election, he'll be trapped there. I think we're going to be able to expand the battle beyond abortion. I think it's going to be about our bedroom right to privacy. And I know, Carrie, this is a big theme of yours. You've been talking about this for a while. I think there's a huge opportunity to go there, and Republicans are going to do everything possible to help us make that case. They're not going to be able to help themselves. Even Donald Trump was saying like we're too radical on abortion, and he got slammed by his own people. I mean, they know how it hurts him. I don't think they can do anything about it.
Yeah.
They're going to be talking about gas stoves and other cancel culture nonsense,
I mean,
which
I
has
just think
zero
about
salience with the general public. They're going to be talking about conspiracy theories about how I've been seeing a lot of talk, including Ron Johnson, who's like, now we know that Fauci was a crook and that the vaccines hurt us. It was more dangerous than everybody admitted. Most people got the vaccines. Most people are fine. I mean, these are like nonsense. It's like saying, aha, taking aspirin, now we know that aspirin can kill you. And people are like, what? Taking aspirin or Advil or Tylenol. These are not arguments that resonate. Inflation is going to be tamed, so they're not going to be able to make that inflation argument. I can see oil companies trying to raise prices again artificially to try to hurt Republicans. But Joe Biden learned that you just politically release petroleum from the strategic reserves to get the prices down. So and if there's a global downturn, which China right now is not looking to be in good shape, India is looking creaky. If those major economies falter, the global demand for oil will also drop, which will have an effect. So there's a lot of moving pieces on that front. So I'm not sure what their substantive argument will be. And we can still, Joe Biden did a great job, as much as he was mocked by the pundits, did a great job framing the midterm election as an election about democracy and self-determination. And that argument will be just as salient, but we'll have the benefit of presidential year Democratic base turnout, which we didn't have in this midterm. So I think it's going to be, I actually like our chances.
Oh, I like our chances a lot, with the exception
the map
of the
in the
Senate.
Senate sucks, but beyond that, what was that?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I was like, I like our chances with the exception of the Senate. And you were like, yeah, the map in the Senate sucks.
Yeah.
But the House map, good. I mean, we've got, 18 seats there that are held by Republicans that Biden won. I would like to, so there's a couple things I want to say. I want to try to come up with, and I am, you can at me at my Twitter account at Carrie Eleveld or whatever, but I would like to come up with some sort of phrase that we can just like sweep stuff like cancel culture, and gas stoves and stuff. Just like
CRT, critical race theory.
We need a dismissive phrase for that. It's like, oh, here they go again. We need the here they go again phrase for that, so that we can just get past that really quickly. We can dismiss it as like, because cancel culture ended up not, they spent a lot of time talking about CRT and cancel culture. Cancel culture ended up like, it wasn't even a blip on, it may have revved up some of their base, but it wasn't even a blip in terms of and we spent a lot of time talking about CRT and cancel culture. And it wasn't even a blip in the
Total
in the
non-factor.
midterm. So right. So is total non-factor. So I think we need to come up with something. I think gas stoves is going to be exactly like that.
Yep.
This whole, I can't even understand what the gas stove controversy. Please don't tell me. I don't even want to know. So, I was like, let's
The
just not get
irony,
caught up.
I will get into it, but
Yeah.
the irony is that gas stoves are prevalent in liberal cities, and most of red America uses electric.
Oh, well, there you go. It's terrible.
And it's not even close.
I think we just need to come up with some phrase that just quickly dismisses that so that we can move on to talking about the things that matter. And we define the things that matter. And the things that matter are what Democrats did for the economy, what Democrats did for average Americans in terms of health costs, in terms of their pocketbook, in terms of making their lives better, and what Democrats plan to do. I also want to hold out. I know you're convinced that Joe Biden's running. I think Joe Biden's convinced that he's running. Okay, so I'm not suggesting.
What are you saying?
Well, I just want to make the announcement that I, Carrie Oliver, running for president. No. No, what I'm saying is that it's possible that he won't run. And who knows what that reason would be. I'm not suggesting that there should be a primary battle if he decides to run. Okay. If he decides to run, he should run. But I don't want anybody to be thinking, oh, God, what do we do if Joe Biden decides not to run for whatever reason? You never know if there's like a health reason that comes up or whatever,
Okay.
who knows? We've got so much talent on the bench. We've got so many people. We've got everyone from, John Fetterman to Josh Shapiro to Gretchen Whitmer to Gavin Newsom.
I'm a Gretchen Whitmer partisan. So if I think
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, totally.
right now, I would say
I'm from Michigan, and I think she worked magic there. I mean, I
Yep.
don't live there now, but that's my home stomping grounds. But also think about like Raphael Warnock. Raphael Warnock is a super attractive candidate. I don't know if he's even thinking about it, but like, man, is he?
No, we have a deep bench. I'm not worried about our bench.
Right, we're not worried about it. I just think it would be, we're not. I don't want anyone to worry about if he doesn't run, because there seemed to be some mistaken thing in the media last year. It was like, well, what would Democrats do? They don't even have anyone. Like, I mean, Kamala Harris is vice president. I mean, she would have to run again and like make the case for herself.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of people, and I'm not worried about that a bit. So I'm happy to take on whoever they have in 2024.
No, absolutely.
Really.
So, Carrie, that is our show for today. Thank you so very much. Thanks to Walter, our engineer. Thanks to everybody behind the scenes that helps make the show work. Paul and Dorothy and Kara. And I think that's for our side. And thanks to you, the reader, the listener, the viewer. Thanks for joining us in this battle for our democracy. You can read more of Carrie and some of me and a lot of other great writers at dailykos.com. You can also check in. We always talk about civics polling. You can actually go. There's a lot of great polling. You can sort by a lot of these questions. You can sort by state, by demographics. That's at civics with a Q, civiqs.com, civics with a Q. And you can check us out here every week in our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Love and appreciate you. Catch you next week.